The envelope arrived 3 days before my son's wedding. No return address, no note. Just my late wife's handwriting across the front. For Daniel when he is ready to become a husband. I'd kept that letter in a locked drawer for almost 6 years. Then, 1 week before his wedding, my son looked me in the eyes and said, "Dad, don't come." So I mailed the letter to his bride. My name is Thomas Reed. I am 64 years old, retired from elevator maintenance in Philadelphia. I spent nearly 4 decades fixing things people only noticed when they stopped working. That is how my family felt after my wife Margaret died. Nobody noticed what she held together until she was gone. Margaret was the kind of woman who remembered everything. Birthdays, favorite meals, the names of strangers' children. She sent handwritten cards, made extra food for neighbors, and somehow always knew when someone needed a call. She was also the person who kept my relationship with our son Daniel soft. Whenever Daniel and I disagreed, she translated us to each other. "Your father worries," she would tell Daniel. "He is trying," she would tell me. Then Margaret got sick. Ovarian cancer. She fought for nearly 2 years. But by the end, the hospital room had become part of our life. Daniel came often during those final weeks. He held her hand. He brought her coffee. He promised her he would look after me. "I've got Dad," he told her. Margaret smiled. That smile stayed with me long after she was gone. After the funeral, Daniel called every Sunday. For a while. Then every few weeks. Then only when he needed something. "Dad, my car needs repairs." "Dad, rent went up." "Dad, Olivia and I are short this month." "Dad, can you help until Friday?" Friday almost never came, but I kept helping. Part of me believed I was honoring Margaret by being there for him. Another part of me was scared that saying no would make him disappear completely. So I paid. I helped with deposits, covered bills, sent money for emergencies. I even paid part of the first wedding venue deposit when Daniel called me one night sounding stressed. He never asked how I was doing. Never asked if I still slept on the couch because our bedroom felt too quiet. Never asked if I still opened Margaret's closet just to smell one of her sweaters. But I told myself grief made people selfish sometimes. I made excuses for him because I was not ready to admit the truth. Then came the wedding. Daniel and Olivia had been engaged for almost 2 years. Their ceremony was planned at an estate outside Philadelphia. White tents, string lights, a long guest list. The kind of wedding that looks beautiful online before anyone has even walked down the aisle. I found out most of the details through Olivia's social media posts. Dress fittings, cake tastings, photos of Daniel smiling beside her. I was not in any of them. Still, I assumed I would be there. I was his father. Then, one rainy afternoon, a week before the wedding, Daniel came to my apartment. He did not sit down. That was the first thing I noticed. He stood near the door with his hands in his pockets, looking like he had rehearsed every word. "Dad," he said, "I need to talk about the wedding." I looked at him. "What about it?" He shifted his weight. "Olivia and I think it would be better if you didn't come." For a second, I thought I heard him wrong. "Better for who?" He looked down. "There has been tension." "What tension?" He sighed like I was making something simple difficult. "You have been distant, emotional. Olivia thinks it might be uncomfortable. My wife had been dead for 6 years. My son had barely spoken to me unless money was involved, and he was worried I might make his wedding emotional." I asked him one question. "Did Olivia say she does not want me there?" He hesitated. That hesitation answered everything. "She thinks it might be easier," he said. Easier. That word stayed in the room after he said it. Easier than explaining why his father was absent. Easier than admitting he had been taking money from a grieving man while quietly pushing him out of his life. I could have shouted. I could have reminded him about every check I wrote, every bill I covered, every time I answered his call before the second ring. Instead, I said, "All right." Daniel blinked. "Really?" "Yes." He looked relieved. That hurt more than anger would have. Before he left, he said, "It's not personal, Dad." I watched the door close behind him. Then I laughed once, quietly, because some lies are too tired to argue with. That night, I opened the drawer where I kept the things I could not throw away. Margaret's hospital bracelet. Her recipe book. A birthday card she gave me on our 30th anniversary. And the envelope. For Daniel when he is ready to become a husband. She gave it to me during her last month in hospice. I remembered the moment clearly. She was sitting in her favorite chair, wrapped in a blue blanket, weak but still sharp. "Do not give this to him yet," she told me. "When should I asked. "When he's about to make promises, he needs to understand." I never opened it. I never considered opening it. It belonged to Daniel. But that night, after he told me not to come to his wedding, I noticed something written beneath his name. In smaller letters, Margaret had added, "And if he forgets who he is, let the woman he chooses know what he was taught." My hands started shaking. Not from anger, from grief, from hearing my wife's voice after 6 years of silence. The next morning I drove to a post office near Broad Street. I mailed the letter to Olivia at the wedding venue. No explanation, no warning, only a short note. "This was written by Daniel's mother. Please read it before you say your vows." Then I went home. I did not call Daniel. I did not ask whether Olivia got the letter. I did not plan revenge. I let the truth travel where it needed to go. The wedding day came on Saturday. I spent the morning fixing a loose cabinet hinge in my kitchen. Then I walked to the park where Margaret and I used to sit on Sundays. I bought coffee from the same cart she liked. At 2:18 that afternoon, my phone rang. "Daniel." I watched it ring twice before answering. "What did you do?" he asked. His voice was tight. I could hear music and people talking behind him. "What are you talking about?" "You mailed Olivia something." "Yes." She read it. I looked across the park. "What did your mother say?" I asked. He went silent. Then he whispered, "She wrote about you." "I know." "She wrote that you stayed with her every day." "I know." "She wrote that a man cannot call himself a husband if he abandons his father while that father is grieving." That sentence sat between us. Heavy, final. Daniel told me Olivia read the letter aloud in the bridal room, in front of her mother, her friends, and Daniel. Then she asked one question. "Why is Thomas not here?" Daniel told her the truth. He admitted he told me not to come. He admitted he only called when he needed money. He admitted he stopped showing up after Margaret died. Olivia took off her veil and walked out. The wedding did not happen that day. Not because I ruined it. Because a dying mother's letter stopped two people from making promises built on dishonesty. Daniel came to my apartment 2 days later. No suit, no confidence, no excuses. He stood outside my door with red eyes and his hands in his jacket pockets. "I failed, Mom," he said. I said nothing. "I failed you too." Then he started crying. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like someone who had finally run out of places to hide. "I thought you would always be there," he said. I looked at him for a long moment. "That was the problem, Daniel." He nodded. I told him I loved him, because I did, but I also told him love was not an unlimited credit line. It was not permission to disappear until you needed help. And it was not an excuse to leave your father alone while he grieved the woman who held the family together. Olivia called me a few days later. She apologized for not asking more questions. She said the wedding was postponed. I told her that decision belonged to them, but I gave her one piece of advice Margaret would have understood. Do not marry a man because of who he promises to become. Marry him because of what he does when nobody is rewarding him for it. Today, Daniel and I are rebuilding, slowly. He comes to dinner twice a month. He pays back what he can. More importantly, he asks about me. He asks about his mother. Last week, he brought white lilies for Margaret's picture. Her favorite flowers. He stood in front of it for a long time, then whispered, "I'm trying, Mum." Maybe that letter was never meant to punish him. Maybe it was meant to stop him, because sometimes the last thing a mother leaves behind is not money or property. Sometimes it is one honest sentence, and sometimes that sentence saves a family before it is too late.